Working with horses for leadership training? Yes. Today, Cathy's talking to her new friends at Tactics Galena about their work with horses and the amazing lessons that they can teach us. We love how these beautiful creatures can help us to think differently. If you're interested in connecting with Cathy and CJ, look for their information in the show notes. And if you take advantage of their services, be sure to come back and tell us what you learned.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to another fabulous episode of Thinking Differently with Cathy Rhodes. I'm Cathy Rhodes, and I am very excited to introduce you today to my new friends, Cathy and CJ Wolfenden. They are with the organization called Tactics. And check out the show notes because I'll have a website there, all kinds of good stuff. But this team is out of Galena, Illinois, and they lead a group of horses through a horse experience. Have you heard about experiences lately? I mean, there's experiences for everything. And the whole idea of an experience is to actually do something very fun and exciting, but also learn something like serious leadership and personal development learning that goes on with an experience. So, Tactics does retreats and does obstacle courses and does very interesting and unique experiences to help you understand your leadership. I'm not even going to tell you anything else about this interview because Cathy and CJ do such an amazing job sharing such details about these experiences and about the horses. You're going to have to hear for yourself. Enjoy. And when you're ready for this experience, please let me know. I'd love to go with you. Share with us, what is Tactics? Who are you guys?
Yeah, so Tactics Galena, we're based in Galena, Illinois, and we're a skills development company. We're internationally certified for equine assisted learning. So that's really our point of difference is we'll train you in all sorts of different skills. Soft skills is what we mean when we say that, and we use that by the horses. So we'll help you in the arena working alongside our specially trained horses. Not all horses can do it, but we've got a herd of 13, either miniatures or full size horses that will work with you through. So we kind of take it, it gets confused with equine assisted therapy often. But the way that we kind of like to explain it is you already know the skills, they're in your toolkit, but we're just going to sharpen them for you. So you come in, you know what we're talking about, you know leadership, you know self-confidence, you know to live in the moment, be mindful, but it's just about executing it and then just really sharpening it on how do we bring that into our life or our workforce or whatever you come to us with as far as your goals and stuff. And then we also do fun touristy activities as well because we have the horses. So there's kind of two sides to it. But in a nutshell, that is what we are. So we're equine assisted learning. And then we also do the fun things too of the tourist activities.
Okay, I love this because I mean, you're speaking my language. This is my world, right? The soft skills, the leadership, the self-confidence, the personal growth. But you're using horses to really hone in on the learning lesson. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's exactly right. So, what we're taking is abstract concepts that we can teach and we can learn about in life, and we can take seminars and workshops, and we can set up case studies and analyze case studies. But what the horses do is they bring that right into you personally, your energy, your history, your experiences, how you perceive life, and they make those concepts concrete. So we go from abstract to very concrete very quickly in the arena. And it's done through the history and the longitude, if you will, of the horses' experiences. So they've been doing this. All of these soft skills, ironically, are mastered in horses in the horse herd dynamic over millions of years. And what CJ and I do is we try and bridge that gap of their mastery into everyday human life. And that's where that synergy happens. And that's where those aha epiphany moments happen for the individual.
Okay, my logical brain is so kicking in here because I I'm not really around horses. I've never been
Yeah.
around horses, maybe twice in my whole life. The horses don't know me. So how can you be so confident in saying that they're gonna like teach me concretely a lesson?
Exactly. So in the program always anchors into two fundamental aspects of the horse world. And so when you bring the horse into your team, the two main things you need to worry about is the horse safe? Does the horse feel safe? And will the horse feel there's leadership? Is somebody in charge? Those are the two things the horse absolutely demands of us when we walk alongside them and do these obstacles and challenges. And as long as we're satisfying those two premises, the horse is more than willing to work with us. In that, whenever things aren't in alignment, when they're not matching, when they're not congruent, when they're not transparent, when they're not honest, in us, the horse will tell us, because he will immediately feel like there's not leadership, you see, or he will immediately feel like, I'm not entirely sure this person has my safety in stock here. And they will immediately give us the feedback that, hang on, Cathy, we need to assess what's going on in your thoughts. What are you actually thinking about right now? Well, Cathy's thinking about dinner and how she has to feed the guests coming for dinner. The horse calls that out and says, no, I need you to be thinking right now, right here in this moment. What are we trying to accomplish? And that's just one example of how that works with the horse's input.
Yeah. And I'll just piggyback onto that as far as people often ask, like, well, how do you know? Like, because horses can't talk. But the interesting part is that even for humans, 80% of our communication is nonverbal. So the argument of they can't talk kind of immediately gets snubbed there. So horses are always communicating. They're always communicating with each other. They're always communicating with the people around them. The difference is, do you know what you're looking for? And that's where our certification really leans into that as well. So we've been trained to read those tiny little physical, or even just like the height of their head, like just those small little physical things to look for. That's the immediate feedback that we're picking up on. So our clients, they may not know that they're getting that immediate feedback, but that's where the facilitators in the arena step in, and they'll talk for the horse, basically, because we're not looking at our clients in the arena on how they're doing. We're just reading our horses. And so it can be that they raise their head a little bit. That's often they're not feeling safe. They're trying to get a better view, or their eyes widen. Just like people, a lot of it's the same. Your eyes get wide. You stand up taller. You're ready. Do you have to run or do you have to fight? It's all these same parallels. It's just, do you know what you're looking for? And then that's when we step in. So we're not like mind readers or anything, but that's where our certification has really helped in that area as well. Just knowing what you're looking for, because it's very similar to people. I mean, we're very nonverbal communicators as well, but some people are more in tune to that than others. So.
Well, I was going to ask, what does a horse do when they don't feel safe, when they don't feel like there's leadership around? So some of it might be very, like, I might not even notice that they're showing lack of confidence in me.
Yeah.
Well, they'll make it known. So CJ and I will see the signs real early, and we let it play out because that's part of the experience and that's part of where it will land the most. The difference between facilitating and teaching is we would come over top of you, we'd step right in and tell you, oh, the horse is this. Facilitating is letting that play out and letting the people experience, hang on, the horse is not moving, not budging, and we have to get the horse to the end of this alleyway. So the horse is very clear in its communications eventually, and that happens actually at a remarkable pace. And so CJ and I see it very quickly, but we'll stand back. The only time we'll step in is if frustrations, like people are just getting at a gridlock, they just can't problem solve their way out of this, or they're not at all understanding their horse, or if either the people or the horse are starting to go into an unsafe area, literally, not just the horse thinking he's unsafe. That's when we step in and say, hang on, now let's look at the situation. What's your horse doing? Well, his head is high and he's simply not moving. Okay, what do you think that means? Well, she doesn't know what she's doing and she's not being clear. And it all just starts to unfold and come out. And then eventually they get on the same page and they're like, okay, hang on. So what are you going to do to make your horse feel safe so he will follow you in this obstacle course. And they will immediately be like, well, I suppose we could try her way. Oh, okay. So they're immediately starting to work together. They're communicating. And then the horse is like, you know what, we're good. Let's go. And he'll go with them. So it's a fascinating experience. And it's very personal because the horse responds to two energies. One is the energy of the group, the dynamic of the group. Are they communicating? Are they moving forward? They may be arguing, but if they're processing and literally, quote unquote, moving forward in the goals, the horse is okay with that. That's okay energy. But then the other side of that coin is the horse is very specific to the individual energy. So if one person is coming in and they are very belligerent in their demeanor, and they dominate and they overtake and they don't allow that synergy or that teamwork or what have you, the horse will call them on it. And the horse is like, yeah, no, not listening to you. And the horse does not allow BS. You can't fool the horse. You just simply can't fool it. And it reads your congruency between your thoughts and actually your core, your heart. If that doesn't match, the horse will call you out on it. It's brilliant.
This is crazy because they're going to read the congruency of me between my thoughts and my heart.
Yes.
Okay, I preach this, I teach this all the time, but scientists are just now figuring out the congruency. How in the world do horses know this? This is mind-blowing.
Isn't it though? And that's the beauty of it, Cathy, is that everything that happens in the arena is just making these concrete, abstract, very concrete. Like you were just saying, I've been teaching this. Science has been just discovering this, but the horses, they know it and they bring it right down into brass tacks for you personally.
I love how you just said that there's no BS with a horse. You can't, these are big animals. So it's not like I'm going to bully them to do what I want or push them into position or pick them up, right?
Right.
You're just not going to do that. They can be intimidating themselves, but it's almost like I'm hearing you say, so can we? Maybe not intimidating, maybe it's more bullying, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah. I think something that's important for like our clients, but just everyone to remember is that like horses, as big as they are, they're 100% prey animals.
Yes.
They always have, they just like, they picture themselves with a big target on their back.
Yep.
24/7. So they're always the ones being hunted, right? Like they never go out and hunt anything. They just graze, they forage. So even though they can get up to 1,500 plus pounds, they're still prey. You know, they still think everything's out to get them. So when you say that, like, we can be intimidating as well, for them, 100%. Whenever they meet a new person, they don't know what their intention is at first. You know, like it takes them that minute and that bond in order to try and figure out, because we could easily take them out and they know that, but it's just a matter of, are you here to do that? Or, you know, can I trust you? And so like for all of our arena sessions, or just anyone really that comes onto property, if you're there for an activity, we always start with grooming the horse. It's the fastest and the best way to gain trust from them, because they sorry, our cat, they it's the fastest and easiest way to gain trust from them. That's what they do in their herd. And so us bringing strangers to them, us as their owners, they can trust us, but then it also allows them that time to get to know and trust the new people, and vice versa for the people to meet the animal as well. You know, we don't just throw them into the arena and say, work with this 1,200-pound animal now. So yeah, I think having that in the back of everyone's mind is always important. Just the way that they can, you know, that you can't lie to them, and they're always honest, and they can tell our alignment and congruency. It just goes back to, they have to.
Yes.
You know, they've relied on that ever since their beginning of existence. And so even though it may sound like such an abstract idea for us, just as science is developing on learning how they've managed to survive in these herds and in these dynamic areas and terrains, and for all sorts of different uses. I mean, when you look at history, horses have been used for anything, right? And now we're the ones hauling them in the trailers instead of them hauling us. Like, it's been so diverse, and so it may be new for us to comprehend, but to them that it's old news. They've needed to do that for survival for their whole life.
So I'll tell you a few fun facts about horses that might just help solidify why we use horses. And that is along the line of them being prey animals, is that out of their survival, they work very cohesively as a group and as a herd, even down to the point that it is a physical situation. So it's called heart math. It's an entire scientific study on it, but they can judge your intentions within 8 feet. So as soon as you get within 8 feet of them, they're immediately feeling your heartbeat, and they are immediately, whether you like it or not, they're lowering your blood pressure, and they are releasing all of those happy chemicals in our brains to help us feel good and relax and be grounded. Now, that is even if somebody is terrified of them, because it happens at a cellular level. And the way that happens physically is because around us and horses, around our hearts and our minds, we have an electromagnetic field. Some people go in for their heart to get examined, they get an EKG, right? So we do have this electromagnetic pulsing barrier around our heart and around our brains. Horses do as well. And the difference is that a horse's heart is 25 times larger than the human heart. So their pulse is much slower. Their volume of blood that they're moving is massive compared to us. And that affects our electromagnetic field. And it lowers our electromagnetic field to go in sync with theirs. And they do that amongst their own herd. So a herd will be standing, and as prey animals, they all get on the same pulse rate in their heart system. And if any of the horse's heart starts to go like this, they know there's danger, and they immediately will all act. All 30, 40, 50 of them, however many are in the herd. So there's a whole lot of science behind what we do in the arena. And a lot of people will say, well, why a horse, not a dog? A dog's a man's best friend, but a dog is a predator. A dog can very easily turn the table and be the dominant. A horse will never look to do that. A horse will always look to fight or flight, like fly. They will fight, kick out if they have to defend, but they won't aggressively go after somebody unless they feel very unsafe, or that simply there's no one in charge, because they demand leadership. And then the last thing I'll say with horses that is so neat, I lied, 2 things I'll say, is some people have asked, well, why don't you use another prey animal like a deer or a sheep? And the reason being is, again, back down to science. The horse's brain has a much larger frontal lobe. The horse's brain is a lot like human brains. They have a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere, and they cross over and they have emotions, and they can be desensitized. A deer, a sheep, they're not so much. They don't have that frontal lobe that has executive reasoning and problem solving and learning like a horse does. And those are some of the fundamental differences as to why we use horses, in addition to the fact that they're so honest, they're immediate feedback for us and our behavior, and they really help us bridge that gap between becoming better humans. Quite frankly, who knew a horse would help us become better humans?
Okay, so I know a few people who are, I mean, they are just flat out not interested because horses are intimidating, and they're just not interested, right? But you said even those that are fearful of the horses can bring their blood pressure down. What stories do you have? What have you actually physically noticed in those people who have some fear to these large animals?
So it's really neat. If we know that somebody has a high level of fear towards a horse for whatever reason, we often will offer them the opportunity to either go with the large 12, 1,500-pound horse, or a miniature horse, 250, 300-pound horse. And those type of people inevitably will choose the miniature horse. And one couple, they came in to work with the horses, and he was terrified. She loved horses. He was terrified of horses. So they chose the mini. One of our minis is named Jessie. And before they got started to groom and such, Jessie did a big yawn and a stretch. And this man thought he was baring his teeth at them and he was going to attack them. You don't need any experience when you come into the arena with us. We'll empower you enough to know and understand your teammate. Okay. So we explained to him straight away that Jesse's not a predator. He's not going to attack you. He's a prey. If anything, he's concerned you're going to attack him. And by the end of that session, this man absolutely loved Jesse because there was that understanding. And I think even more so is that Jesse gently, without any judgment, highlighted some of this gentleman's strengths and some of his weaknesses. And that's a huge difference as well. Is the horses, they don't bring judgment. They don't care what money you make. They don't care how you dress. They don't care what car you drive. There is no judgment on you. All they want to know is, are they safe in your presence? And is there somebody in charge? And if not, they'll be in charge. So this man just learned so much about himself and his relationship with his wife. It was really, really neat. And now he loves Jesse. He's a great fan. Still not comfortable with the big horses, but a fan of the little guys.
I'll just say too that a word that always comes to mind with me when we get clients that are nervous or scared and genuinely fearful, for me, I just always think of respect. Like, I'm fine with my clients like having a nervousness or a fear towards the big horses, because to me, and the way I explain it to them is I wouldn't label that as a fear for you unless they obviously have had like a bad experience in the past, like if it's a grounded fear or something. But if it's just for the animal itself, I always call that just respect. Like, that they're strong, they're big, but we always remind our clients they're prey. Like they don't know that. They don't know how big and strong they are. Like they know that they can just walk away from you, but they know that we can do worse when they walk away. And so I always just tell people that you just have a respect for them. And I'm fine with that. The horses are fine with that. And it's just about bridging that gap and then gaining the respect of the animal back and the trust. So yeah, that's always a word that comes to mind. And then I just wanted to throw in too, is that with equine assisted learning, so at Tactics, all of our activities for our skills development, there's absolutely no horseback riding.
No.
So if people have had, they'll say like, oh, I fell off when I was a kid. It doesn't apply in our sessions because we do not get on the back of the horse. It's all, you are on the ground working side by side at eye level with them. And it's a real team thing. It's not, there's no domination, right? Like when we get on the back of a horse, we're just telling him what to do now. And he's fully submissive, fully vulnerable. And there's definitely a more dominating factor there. And we're not listening to the horse as much when we're on the back. And so that's just another thing about people that are scared of the horses. It's really just a respect thing. And then there's no horseback riding too. So it's very different for a lot of people. They haven't really interacted with them in that way before.
And it's foundational too for people's self-esteem when they come in and they can complete a challenge course with us. And that at the end, they're like, dang, I just moved a 1,500-pound horse through this entire course, and he did it. He did it with me, and although that's a huge boost of confidence, and that if you can make and collaborate with a 1,500-pound prey animal that by nature, everything in their body and mind is telling them to get away from you because you're a predator. If you can convince them, negotiate with them, and collaborate with them and get them through the course, you can do really anything. So a lot of times sales teams will come and when they complete the course, their sales go up 20% for a couple of reasons. One is they really, really get that basic, you have to be honest when you're in sales. You've got to be that alignment, that congruency, right? And with that authenticity will come sales. People buy from people, not stuff.
And people they trust too, and having that congruency. And you can't fool a horse, so it forces you that authentic you out. And people you buy from people that you trust. You don't buy from somebody that you think's a little shady. So
Yeah. And so they have these wonderful measurable improvements weeks after time in the arena with us. So it's pretty neat. It's very neat, actually.
That is so cool. Okay, so did you guys get into horses first, or did you get into like leadership training?
Horses first.
yeah.
Horses first.
What a great combination. This is so intriguing to combine the horse with this type of learning because I do this, right? This is what I do for a
Yeah.
living. I do speaking and training, but yet I talk to people who are like, yeah, I've sat through so many of those things. You're bringing it to a different level of connecting with each of us individually. That is so powerful.
You got it. You absolutely nailed it. And like a lot of people will do a team building, for example, and they'll go out and they'll have a great time. They'll play around at golf, or they'll do a challenging puzzle, or they'll do a scavenger hunt, which does bring the team together and have some fun memories. And that's that collaboration. And you can tick all sorts of wonderful boxes in that. But that doesn't necessarily affect the individuals and therefore the team 2 weeks from now. And it doesn't necessarily and inevitably, it doesn't affect the bottom line of the business. It just had a happy outing and a fun time and made some laughs and all good. What we do with the horses in the arena is we dial in directly to people and their skill set that will affect the bottom line, that will carry and last weeks after their time with us. In addition to having a really fun outing, memories, laughter to beat the band, and tick all those other boxes as well. So it's a real win-win, and it's like a bonus pack for as far as experiences go.
Right, right. Okay, so we know that every person has different strengths. And there's different assessments people can take to prove their strengths, but you're showing it. I mean, through this experience, it's just coming out as a visual, almost as a fact.
Yes. Yeah, and with that being said, is that there's 2 points in that. Remember, I told you we were saying the horse looks for safety and leadership. So leadership from the horse's perspective is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's what humanity is trying to emulate more and more, and that is shared leadership. Leadership always starts with the individual. You have to be in lead of your own life, if you will, and that's that congruency between what is your heart, who are you, and what are your thoughts, and do they align? And so the horse pulls that out of you personally and calls you on that personally. So it starts with your individual leadership, that congruency. Then horses and their herds are successful and healthy and safe because they require everybody to carry leadership. That shared leadership is what keeps them safe. And it's not a top-down situation. You will have in a herd, you will have what's called a boss mare, or in a wild a stallion, but they all have their role. And yeah. But I will continue in that that shared leadership is really, really important because that gives, in the human herd, if you will, the human dynamic, it gives people value, and they have a confidence then that they're contributing, and that team, that leadership success and that synergy that really helps groups blossom. But again, it starts with that individual.
So yeah, you said earlier, right? The horse needs to feel safe, and then also needs to know there's leadership. So when there's no human around, there is leadership within their horse pact.
Absolutely.
If there are humans around, but they're not taking leadership, what does a horse do then?
They take it. They will take
Do that shows that they're taking the leadership. Like what would we see as a human?
What you're going to see physically is ears will go back, neck will stretch out. That's just them telling the other horses to give me space, or go over there, or do that. You'll see them breaking up any squabbles. So the other day we had one of our horses got pretty feisty with another horse, and I don't even know what it was about. I think it was just territory. Like they wanted the hay to themselves or something like that. And the lead horse stopped his eating, hiked over 15, 20 feet and stood over them, amongst them, extended the neck out to the feisty one, said, "You get over there, enough." He keeps the peace in the herd. And then the others are like, "Oh yeah, we're going to give them space." And it's a fascinating thing, but there's no aggression unless there absolutely has to be aggression. Do you know what I mean? All they have to do is subtly look at each other. Sometimes they physically have to be present to tell them to move away. But honestly, a lot of times it's the look. And the fascinating thing is studies have been done that horses can identify our facial expressions better than we can. And horses are emotional, so they do show signs of laugh or of happiness, sadness, anger, fear, and they can read those and interpret those on our face.
And they grieve too.
Yeah, they do.
A
It's
lot of
so
people
sad.
don't know, but they go through all the phases of grief
Yep.
that we do. So they're very relational, and they bond, and they'll have like best friends or favorites in the herd.
Yep.
And if they ever lose that horse to them, they go through the same phases that we do. And it's interesting to be like a person watching that, because it's easier to identify sometimes than like if we go through grief ourselves. Sometimes we don't know what stage we're in. But looking at the horse, they can't fake it. It just
Nope.
goes back to they can't lie. They wear it on their sleeve. It is what it is. And so it's quite interesting. They're very dynamic as far as that. So they have all of their emotions, and they grieve and they work through it and everything, and then they bond with someone else. But yeah, it's fascinating. But then also, just to tie back to if there's no leadership in the arena with our sessions, we usually step in before that happens, because if the horse is going to become the leader of the group, that compromises the safety of our clients, because they'll usually just walk away.
Yes.
Which then we'll have lead ropes on the ground, and they just quit. They're like, "All right, I'm out." And so we can kind of like know how close we are to that point. And it's different with each of our horses. And so we spend a lot of time like getting to know them, of course, on like how much patience really do they have like with the clients, and are they just gonna wait there for how long until our group works it out and starts moving forward again, or do we have to step in earlier before they just want to walk away? Like, leave them. So yeah, we step in before the horse takes leadership if there's no leadership in our group, and we'll help facilitate our clients into finding that again.
And they're very patient and they're very tolerant of us. So there's usually quite a long give that the horse will be like, "Come on, guys. Yeah, I know you got it in you." And they just won't move. They're just waiting for somebody to pick it up. And if they don't pick it up, then they'll start grazing, or they'll walk away, or what have you. So that's what that looks like when the horse seeks leadership of his own accord.
Okay. Oh, so if horses have emotions, then I'm just going to rephrase it. They probably have attitudes, right?
They certainly can.
Oh yeah.
Ever get to, because if you're bringing clients in all the time, do they ever get to the point where they're like, "Come on, I'm done, not today, I don't want to do it today," or are they just constantly serving pretty much you and your clientele?
They have their days. Yep.
They do.
Yes,
do.
they definitely do. It's funny when you say that, I immediately think of one of our minis. Her name is Peaches, and she came from down south, so she has, we say it with a little southern twang. But yes, Peaches, we had one of our women's retreats, and so that was 3 pretty intense days. And a lot of people, so we were heavily relying on a large number of our horses, rotating them through, and then of course playing to the who wants to work with the miniature versus full size. So Peaches is one of our miniatures, and it was the 3rd day, and Peaches just did not want to do it. And so and she wasn't, like, when we say that she didn't want to do it, we know that because we know our horses. Our clients had no idea. They thought she was fine, but we knew that she just wasn't on her game. Her head wasn't in it. Her heart wasn't in it. She was just peopled out by that point. And so at that point, we just switch in and we rotate out. So the nice thing is having a variety of horses, we're able to kind of like put them through shifts, just like people. So we're able to just switch them out and then carry on pretty seamlessly. So yeah, they definitely do have their days that they're not feeling it that day for whatever reason, so we read them, we listen to them, and we honor that. We don't force them to do anything, because at that point they're not giving the best experience to our clients either. So
well, there's a lesson for leadership, period. Don't
yeah.
anything. They're not going to give you their best, right?
That's right. And something to be said too is that horses like us are very unique, and they all have their own personality. They all have their own character. Very, very unique. No two horses are alike, just like humans. And then in addition to that is that because horses are 100% living in the moment, people carry every day, every day is a different day for us, right? And so if we come to the arena and we do a program today, and then tomorrow we come to the arena and we do the exact same program with the exact same horse, we are going to get different results for us personally tomorrow, because we're in a different day. We are carrying a different mindset. We have different experiences. Maybe we spilled our coffee. Maybe our partner gave us a kiss goodbye or something. We're carrying different energies and different congruencies in us each day, each moment, whereas the horses are always in that moment. So they're reading what are you today, right now, what's happening, and they're giving you that feedback. So it's pretty spectacular how that works hand in hand in each day. So some people are like, oh, I've already done the leadership course. I'm like, yeah, you have. That's cool. But I guarantee if you come back and do it again, you are going to reach another level of who you are and what works for you.
I think that's the biggest thing for me to hear what you guys offer is they connect with who you are today. And I know you've mentioned, what is it, 8 feet away? Feel your heartbeat. They're connecting in that balance. That is some powerful stuff. We, when we're working with horses, really can't fake it either, can we?
No, no, it is true. And I would say 2 things on that. One, just as like a side note for us as the owners, is because they take us as we come each day, we have to be really like cognizant and aware of how we're feeling, because we're the first people that they're going to feed off of. So if we have a group coming in the afternoon and we get out there to prep, and if we've had a really bad morning, we have to like sit in the car and just be like, all right, we're going to change our mindset, because if we come in here with this attitude and this frustration, that's the first thing that our horses are going to feed off of. So we kind of have to give them their baseline. So in a way, it's quite beneficial for us too, because it makes us like, we always have to be aware of just how we're giving them, because they know us the best. They're always going to look to us. And so if we bring a group of strangers onto property and we're all frustrated from, spilled my coffee in the car this morning, they're going to be like, okay, yeah, we don't like these people, like they're looking to us first at that point, until they, get the grooming and they get to know these people. So yeah, we're always trying to give them that baseline to feed off of, because especially if we bring a large group in, there's a lot going on. Every one of those people have had a different morning. They're all just carrying a different air about them, and the horses all feed off of that. So yeah, it's interesting to witness.
I think of what you just said for leaders alone. I mean, the leader walks into the office and they're setting the stage of the attitude for the day. I think of I mean, I had such empowerment with my kids in the morning. If I rushed them off to the bus, or if I just breathed and said some nice words, that dictated their whole day. Same thing, just with a horse now instead of people. Maybe we should be nicer to people though, right?
But that's the neat thing, Cathy, is that exactly what you just said and how you're connecting the dots, that's connected in the arena, and it makes us mindful of ourselves. It makes us mindful of the present. What are we giving off? And when that person is giving off something, it gives us the empathy as well. So all of these soft skills start to really culminate and start to gain traction when you're in the arena, because it all starts to connect and land far bigger, greater than a conversation. So it's very powerful for leaders leading, responsible for their home, their families, their businesses, their capacities in whatever level. But it's also really a wonderful starting point for literally everybody, anyone.
Right. Right. Okay. So this is the Thinking Differently with Cathy Rhodes podcast. I love thinking differently. I love to dive into the mind switches that happen. How did you think differently, and how are you continuing to think differently as you build this business and create experience opportunities for people?
I think it's all like that, you know? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, experiential learning is gaining a lot of traction. And that really, when you tear it down, that's what we are. And so that's when, in a lot of our workshops and retreats, and, you know, a lot of what we offer will collaborate with people like yourself, Cathy, like the classroom coaches, and then we'll work with them. And so I think, being a new business, we just completed our first year open, that bringing in those collaborations, and we just think differently on how can we market it and approach it to people, because it is such a new concept in our area. Internationally, it's been used, tested, tried, and proven, you know, hundreds of times over. But where we are in our little pocket of the world, it's quite new. So yeah, we're always trying to think differently as far as on how to market it and collaborate and work with our community. And so we offer all kinds of workshops and retreats, or, you know, daily activities. We have some where we take a lot of the classroom part out of it, like a lot of the skills training out, and we allow people just to come and do the obstacle course, because that in and of itself is fun. You get to team up with one of the horses, and so that gets people out and they can experience it at a less capacity, and then they can come back for a training if they want. But yeah, I think it's all different, and we love to think differently, and we're always evolving in that. And we had to think differently in order to start it, to start Tactics, and so that's kind of just set the course for everything is different. But yeah,
I can't tell you how many times we've heard, I had to think differently. I had to look at that differently in the arena, because it is something where they walk up to the arenas set up with 3 to 6 to 7 different obstacle challenges, right? And at the start of each challenge is a little card that tells the description of what's the objective here, right? And they'll read their card, and they'll inevitably be like, oh, this is pretty easy. And then it'll take them a long time to get the obstacle challenged and completed and such. And at the end of it, they always laugh and say, it sounded so much easier. I really had to think differently on how we were going to get down the alleyway with the horse and with those limitations or what have you. And it's just really, really funny how, yes, CJ and I at core, as we grow this business, have to inevitably think differently, trying to translate how does spending time in an arena with a horse help you personally. But also, when people get in the arena, they are forced to think differently about themselves. Absolutely. It's foundational. And the neat thing is that the horses are very gentle in that forcing, if you will. They're very, they just guide and gently, no judgment, get you there.
So much nicer than a human being. Okay, so you mentioned earlier the whole international. This is definitely international. Now you guys are coming from international. Now, Cathy, I know you grew up in the States, and CJ, you're technically an American, aren't you?
I am, yes.
You were born-
Yes.
But where did you grow up? I'm not hearing your accent today, so we can't, you know.
Yeah, I know. It comes and goes. So I was born up in Minnesota, St. Paul area. And then when I was about 18 months old, mom and dad and our whole family, we moved down to New Zealand. So that's where my dad's from. So I was down there with that set of grandparents, and then my brother and my mom and dad until I was 16. So we were down there for 16 years and then came and moved back to where mom's from. So now I'm with this set of grandparents on this side of the world. And we've been here about 5 years now.
And that's down in New Zealand is where you guys really, I mean, you've done this even in New Zealand, the whole horse and the certifications that you have, right?
Yes, our certification anchors out of Canada, actually, and we have 400 to 600 certified facilitators around the world. So that program is tried and true. Fortune 500 companies all over the world have done this kind of training. In New Zealand, we did training where equine assisted learning was just taking hold there. And they trained the international coaches of the All Blacks, which is a rugby, a known internationally phenomenal rugby team. So their leadership coaches came for a leadership training in the arena. So it is something that is used vastly all over the place. In New Zealand, we did do team building, corporate training, leadership training, but we also worked alongside some of the therapy aspects of equine assisted therapy, not learning, in addition to learning, I should say. And that was quite phenomenal too, where you're helping people either physically or mentally, where you will partner with the horse, the client, and then a psychiatrist or a psychologist in the arena and help them get over some of their significant mental health issues. And that was fascinating as well.
Sure.
But we just felt, for us, our passion was more across the line on those toolkits that we all need and have, but we just need to fine tune them. And sometimes we need to find them, quite honestly, in our tool belt. But that's where our passion went when we came stateside, is that we really wanted to dive even deeper into that learning.
Oh, how fascinating. Okay, so you guys have 13 horses, right?
Yes.
What are their ages? Like, how old are they?
Ages?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, all straight through. So our youngest is 3 years old. She's one of our miniatures, and she stands at 28 inches tall, and she does not get her height from her legs. So she's pretty proportionate the whole way through until you look down at her legs, and that's where she loses for height. So she's got very stumpy little legs. But yes, Halo, she's our smallest and our youngest. And then straight through into upper 30s, pushing 40 years old. Also our mini as well, one of our miniatures. So that's probably tied with our miniature donkeys too. So they live longer anyway, but they're around their 40s as well. So, and that's old for a horse. So average life expectancy for a horse, whether it's full size or miniature, is 35 to 40. Is average, and then for donkeys it's usually 45 to 50, so they can creep out a little bit more from the donkeys. But yeah, so we've got straight through. And our 3-year-old, she was not born on property, so she came to us young. She came up from Missouri from somebody down there. So yeah, none of our horses are born on property. They've all been given a second chance at life. That's how they ended up with us. So even our little 3-year-old, so yes, yeah, they've all got a story, and we're actually in the process of hopefully writing a book about them right now, so that everyone can read about, because some of their stories are pretty profound and hefty, and then others are just funny on how we got them. But yeah, so stories.
So are horses like people, where that 3-year-old is definitely a 3-year-old, and whereas the 45-year-old is more elderly? And
Absolutely, yeah.
teenagers, you have your 20-something, you can see that same kind of age progression in a horse.
Yes.
It's so fun.
Yeah, even through the difference in male versus female, it parallels into the horses as well. So if you get like a teenage, in horse years, like a teenage male, he's gonna act very similar to how you can imagine. And same with the females. I mean, the females, they carry very similar attributes to us as people as well, through on age, and then just, how we think and react to things. So
It's funny though, but in retreats, especially, people have the longevity to get to know their horses and our horses, right? The horse they team up with. And inevitably, they realize how unique each horse is, their character, their temperament, and all the rest. And by the end of the retreat, people will almost always identify with a horse, like, oh, that horse is just like me. I am always overlooked, and yet, or they'll just somehow make that horse similar to them, which is very true in many cases. And one in particular said to us, you know, if Chesney can overcome this lack of trust with people, I can. I know I can. And it was beautiful that our horses empower people on that personal level as well as the toolkits, and trust is just such a foundational thing. And often people break trust, and we struggle to trust. And one of our horses in particular, Chesney, he came to us and he did not trust people at all. He would always be on the peripheral. Whenever we went into the pasture, he would go about 40 feet out. Just really, he would watch. He was curious, but he just did not trust us. It took a long time. And now Chesney loves people. He's the first to the gate. He just is all in, and this person in particular at the end of the retreat was like, now I feel so empowered, because if Chesney can be Chesney, who he is now, I know I can get over my brokenness. So it was pretty cool.
Wow, that empower is one of my core value words for my business. And to see it all come together, I mean, you're saying the value words of Unity Consulting are coming together here in everything that you guys do. And I love that there's this activity, if you want to call it that, that experience that can create within people something that's memorable. So yeah, any last thoughts or tips that you've thought of that you want to share with our listeners?
I think we've covered a lot, an absolute lot. Everything that we have covered, we could dive even deeper into the science, the reason, the experiences behind each of all these topics, which is quite fun. So, but I'm happy with what we've been able to share. I would just say that we are, because horses can bring so much value to humanity and individuals as well as groups. We love the idea that we can really create what people need. So if it's a group that says, you know what, our group is really having a hard time on X, Y, and Z, and they can be very specific, we can create a program that will dial into X, Y, and Z and guarantee people will have outcomes achieved by the end of it. So we're quite happy to be able to do that as well.
Thank you so much for coming on this episode with me and sharing your story. And I can't, like I said, I can't wait for this weather to get nicer, because the whole idea that these horses' heartbeats connect with mine is blowing my mind. I want to see this in action here.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for having
you.
us. This was very fun. We really enjoyed it.
Yes.